It's Susie Tomchuk. Welcome to Leaders with Leverage. I'm so excited that you're here. I really enjoy these solo episodes because it makes me really think about what is the topic that would be interesting for me to tell, like my best friend. That's how I feel like these are, like this little conversation with this little tip that will hopefully have impact. And this one I've been thinking about. It's called BATNA, and I'll explain what that is. But the reason I'm going to talk about it today, it's a very foundational negotiation strategy. And when I went to Harvard, it was like what they started with. It is so foundational. And the other day, I was talking to a sales leader who has a huge team under him. He's been in sales for 20 plus years, very successful, does really big deals. And I happened to mention BATNA, just assuming that he would know. He goes, "Hey, hang on, what is that? What are you talking about?" And I was like, "What? I didn't say this to him, but you're a negotiator and you don't know what BATNA is." And so I thought, this is so exciting because even people that have negotiated for a living still have an opportunity to learn about BATNA. So I have to be honest, I always have known, and I've talked a lot about leverage and how important leverage is. And I actually believe that negotiation, we shouldn't use the word, well, we should use the word more. And we should seize opportunities to negotiate and be really comfortable with it. But really, at the core of it, negotiation is about understanding all the leverage at play and understanding what that means, whether it's the confidence that you have is a piece of leverage, or the lack of confidence, the confidence, or your perception of how good the other person is in the negotiation. That's leverage that's negative to you. But anyhow, well, that'll be another one. We'll talk all about leverage because I believe and have such a love for leverage. But let's go back to BATNA. BATNA is an acronym that stands for the best alternative to a negotiated agreement. And because it's the reason it's foundational is because what are your alternatives to the conversation, to the end that you want to have in a negotiation or a conversation, even a difficult conversation? Being really clear about what are the options or what do you want out of it, but then what are the alternatives? So the reason this is so powerful is it like it's obvious because we've all experienced it, but when we are going after something we really want, that means a lot to us, the stakes are high for us. And when the stakes are high, we have invested a lot of emotional capital. And so when you have an alternative to that, even though you really, really hope that it's going the way you want it to, or not, you don't feel as passionate about it. When you have an alternative, it makes you more comfortable and confident all along the way. That's why it's so foundational. And so what you have to do is before you go in, consider all the alternatives. And I'm going to give you a couple examples. One is, let's just say you're selling a car that you know you could get $8,000 for from somebody else. And say you go and you try to sell it for $10,000. Well, you know that the alternative is you can sell it to somebody for 8. So you have like a lot more confidence to stay in that range because you know it's not like, oh my gosh, I have to sell it to this person because nobody else wants it. And maybe sometimes that's, when you're in that situation, you feel so tied into making that deal happen. But when you have an alternative, it allows you to move through it with more objectivity. A good example that I like to use is, consider this. Consider that you were out of a job, and no, let's do it the other way. Say you love your job and somebody comes to you and says, "I want to offer you this other job." And you're like, "Yeah, well, I might enjoy that. There's some things I like about it. I'm going to ask for double what I make now." And the reason is your alternatives is to keep your job. So you're more likely to really go all in and ask for the moon. Maybe ask for more vacation or um, relocation fees, all these things because you have a really solid backup plan. And so that increases your confidence because you have this great opportunity. And then if they say no, yeah, no big deal. But say, and we've all been there, say you've been out of work for like 6 months, you have self doubt. Everybody keeps saying no. It just feels like there's nothing out there. And somebody comes to you and offers you a job that you kind of like, yeah, that'll be good. And they give you a lot less money. You're more likely to say yes because you don't have a lot of alternatives, or it might feel that way. So even if you have to, sometimes your BATNA is really, really strong, like the first example, and sometimes your BATNA might not be that great. Like in that situation, maybe you found a job that you don't, it's not a career job. Maybe it's a good job. You're working at Starbucks. At least you have an alternative. It's not this or nothing. So that's really what a BATNA is. A BATNA is really understanding what alternatives you have to a negotiating agreement. So some of the best practices in starting to build your BATNA, and the reason I think this is so exciting is because just start thinking about that when you move into a conversation with somebody. Just ask yourself, what are my alternatives to us not agreeing to what we're here to discover? It will allow you to just even consider that, and it just makes you more comfortable. It gets you clear about what you want as well. So what you want to do is, especially in a high stakes situation, especially in a time where, and remember, high stakes means it's really important to you, something that you really want, create alternatives. Even if it is something that you so badly want, you don't even want to take the time to consider other things because you're like, it's mine. I want it. You'll feel better if you have alternatives. So the first thing is to brainstorm all the possibilities of the alternatives to what you want, and brainstorm all of them, and think way outside the box, and take the time to do that. Then look at each one of those and consider the pros and cons. And even if you take a few minutes to do this right before you go in, it will advantage you. So the more time you take, and there is people that say, investing time on your BATNA, is it wasted time? I think it sets you up for a really good mindset all through the process. So take the time, look at the pros and cons. They say it's worth the time investment just so you feel even clearer about saying yes about what you really want. So look at the pros and cons of each alternative, and then make sure you put the one that ranks the highest to the top and get really clear about that one. You just need to have one. It's great to have many, but focus on that one, and let that be your BATNA. And then ask yourself, what is their alternatives? What are the things that they might consider that are um, alternate to you both coming to an agreement? Now, if you have a strong BATNA, you can tell the other party that you have it. You can choose to use that as leverage to get them to move quicker or to give you what you want when you have that and you're clear about it. It's not being manipulative or mean. It's just being clear because you have a really strong BATNA that you may take, especially if you're seriously considering, like if you're negotiating something, but you have a great alternative that you would easily just say yes to. It's fine to tell them, or just say, I have some options. I really want this for this price, or I really want this with these combination of benefits. I have other alternatives, which I might end up taking if we can't come up with an agreement, but I really hope we can. Like, that's very honest if that's how you really feel. Don't But also know, be strong in your own BATNA, and they may say to you, oh, that's not a great alternative. That company's not that great, or that product, that's not as good as what we have here. So there, if you uncover it, be ready to understand that a natural reaction may be for them to disqualify even a little bit, put a little doubt in your mind. So just know that that might be coming. And just stay strong in it. When you've really defined it and you're really clear on it, you'll be able to. And if you do have alternatives, but they're not strong, don't uncover it to them because they could use that against you. But just having, even if it's not that strong of an alternative, it's not something you really want, being clear about that. Because really, a BATNA gives you the strength to define what your walkaway is. And so that can help you say, well, this alternative, if I can't get this, then I'm willing to consider my alternative. But you can really think through, especially taking the time to consider what that alternative would mean so that you know what your walkaway is. So again, those are just some tips around BATNA. I'd love for you to share your experience with it. And again, Harvard started with this. It was like one of the first few minutes, which I just thought was super interesting. That they really, this is a core. I mean, to be honest, this is a foundation that came from a book that was a famous negotiation book called Getting to Yes. And it was written by a Harvard professor. So they're definitely rooted in BATNA. So I'll give it that. But this is just something that will make you more comfortable and confident. And just understanding this concept allows you to feel more secure that you're doing your homework, if you will. That's one of the things about negotiation is I find that people don't really understand all of the like the technical terms. So they're worried that they label themselves not a good negotiator. We negotiate all the time, so we have this level of negotiation that we're not even aware of. So putting some of these words to or labels to the activities that we already do gives us additional confidence. That's why I love this concept. Like, start using BATNA, before you walk in. My BATNA is this, and I'm really feel really good about it. Even say it to the other person, like, let's start, throwing out these negotiation words that make us feel like we can command the whole idea of moving through a negotiation. Because really, at the end of the day, if we practice negotiation, it's being clear about what we want, the interests of the other party, and it's being thoughtful about walking through instead of just allowing things to happen. So this is, I get so excited about unveiling some of these techniques and strategies, because what it does is it gives us this language we can all use in our everyday. So maybe go to somebody that you really care about, and maybe you're talking about the restaurant that you're going to go to tonight, and say, I want to consider our BATNA or your BATNA. Maybe your alternative is not going to dinner, not going out, or going to another restaurant. And what are the pros and cons of that? So consider your BATNA, use it freely, really brainstorm, look at the pros and cons, put a priority to which BATNA is the strongest in the situation you want. So that's where you'll focus. And then try it. Really think about, what is the alternatives that I have or the other party has when we're moving into this negotiation, aka conversation in our everyday. So please share with me, how have you found clarity in your BATNA today? Boy, wouldn't that make my day to have just hear people in this grocery store talking about their BATNAs. If they don't buy this type of peanut butter, what is the BATNA that we have here? Oh boy, to be a negotiation nerd. Well, thank you for listening all the way to here. I just so appreciate getting feedback from people and being able to hear how people are using these techniques in a way that's giving them better outcomes. That's what it's all about. Share this with somebody that you want to tell them. Let's challenge ourselves to use BATNA 3 times in a sentence and make sure that we're really exploring all the alternatives to every possible negotiation that's happening around us. So thank you again. My name is Susie Tomanchuk. Share this with anybody that you care about. And until next time, follow so that you know when we drop another episode, which it comes every week. This is Leaders with Leverage. Thanks again.